And joining me now, Republican Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, chair of the Republican Policy Committee. Senator Blunt, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Great to be with you.
Well, good to have you here. I wanted to ask you about some statements that the former President Donald Trump made just this week. On Thursday, he said the insurrection took place on November 3rd, Election Day. January 6th was the protest. Was Election Day an insurrection?
You know, I think the election was what it was. There's a process you go through that determines whether or not the early reports were the right reports, and we went through that process. And I'm of the view that the best thing that President Trump could do to help us win majorities in 2022 is talk about the future, and he can be an important part of this 22 effort. But I think better off to talk about the future than to focus on the past in every election. Every election should be about the future, and I think that's what this next one's going to be about.
Well, he still, this week, was making these false election claims. On Thursday, Arizona should decertify their fake election results immediately. Also Thursday, the Biden administration, are only really good at two things: rigging elections and misinformation. So he's still talking about the past, and a lot of Republican leaders in the House, other members of the Senate, are standing with him on this. Doesn't the party have to disavow the challenge to the election in order to, go forward?
You know, I think President Biden and the Democrats are giving us plenty of things to talk about. We don't need to keep focusing on
But
the
Republicans
past.
are. Republicans keep talking about the past.
Well, I'm not.
And
I don't think many Republicans in the Senate are. I think we're talking about bad tax policies, bad environmental policies, bad national takeover of the election process. There are plenty of things for us to talk about, and I think we're talking about them. I'm there every day, and I hear Republicans concerned, as they should be, about the process that the Democrats are going through.
But they're also
right now.
denying the reality of January 6th. Republicans refusing the commission, not joining the House Select Committee. Steve Bannon, only 9 Republican House votes to punish him for violating a House subpoena.
Well, I think a lot of this discussion is obviously driven by the media, just like this is here today. We could be talking about Senate rules. We could be talking about tax policy.
Well,
we
if
could
Republicans
be talking
were
about these new
accepting the
entitlement
reality,
policies.
It's not the media that's going against the reality of what happened on January 6th. It was the worst attack on our government, on our democracy, since the Civil War.
Oh, I agree with that. In fact, on January the 20th, I was at the podium at the Capitol chairing the inauguration, and that peaceful transition of power that we saw that day is one of the most important things we do. And I was able to chair the inauguration 4 years earlier, and 4 years later, it was the same important message we sent to the world, and I think we effectively did that.
Well, to that point, if the former president keeps denying the reality of the election and of Joe Biden being the president, should that disqualify him from being a candidate, as he suggests he wants to be in 2024?
Well, there are constitutional provisions about being a candidate, and having opinions that other people may not agree with is not one of those provisions. He can be a candidate if he wants to be, but again, I think what President Trump could do that would be most helpful right now would be a focus on the policies that aren't working. His policies at the border were working, his regulatory policies were working, his tax policies were working. But we see that those policies for Democrats with these narrow majorities they have aren't working. I hope that's where he focuses, but I don't manage his time or his
But if he doesn't
comments.
concede the election, would you support him in 2024?
Well, the election for 2020 is over. I'm focused on 2022, and it's a long time between now and 2024.
He has basically excommunicated Liz Cheney from the party, as has Kevin McCarthy, primarying her and all the rest, just for trying to investigate what really happened. What was the conspiracy behind January 6th? Do you think there's a place in the Republican Party for Liz Cheney?
I think Wyoming voters are going to decide if there's a place for her in the House or not. But it's a broad party with lots of things we ought to be focusing on. I think, again, what defines the future of the Republican Party is how we react to the debate that's going on right now. Democrats are having an incredibly hard time getting where they'd like to be. They've decided that they've got a mandate when there's clearly no mandate. The Senate couldn't possibly be closer. The House majority is the closest Democrats have had in 170 years. And frankly, the only thing that Joe Biden and Donald Trump agreed about in 2020 was they both wanted the election to be all about Donald Trump. There is no mandate. Pretending you do is going to have real consequences in both 22 and 24.
Let me ask you about voting rights, because you actually had talked to Joe Manchin about some of the ballot protection issues, yet the Joe Manchin compromise was trying to get to the floor. Democrats were blocked by a filibuster of Republicans, not even letting it get to the floor. How do you feel about voting rights? You supported reenacting the voting rights bill when you were a House member in 2006.
And I would again extend the voting rights bill. The voting rights bill hasn't been repealed. The 14th and 15th Amendment haven't been repealed.
Yeah, but the Supreme Court decision in 2013 basically gutted it.
You know, I was both a local election official and the chief election official for our state for a combined total of about 20 years. There are 10,000 election jurisdictions out there in America. The federal government deciding how elections should be run in all 10,000 of those jurisdictions is a bad idea. And I don't think Senator Manchin was surely fully on board with the supposed compromise. It was a compromise between the left and the far left. You still had matching funding of $6 for every dollar raised for House members. Well, I like Joe Manchin, but I'm not driven by the Joe Manchin standard of whether something's a good deal or not. This was clearly a federal takeover of elections. It was not doing things around the edges of elections that direct the country in a more significant way, and I'm opposed to it. There's no right way to do the wrong thing, and federal government taking over elections is the wrong thing to do. One of the strengths of our system is that the diversity of the system itself and the state and local responsibility to conduct an election that people have confidence in.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Senator Roy Blunt.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.